Have you ever stayed somewhere a little too long after everyone else has gone? When the lights dim, the hallways fall silent, and the smallest sound echoes like a scream. In today's video, you'll hear a true story that happened inside a quiet library, a place that seemed like a safe refuge, but turned into a nightmare after dark. This isn't just a scary story. It's a warning for anyone who thinks they're truly alone. Story 1. The Late-Night Library Stalker. Back in college, I was pursuing a double major and taking 6 courses one semester. The packed schedule classes and internships left me completely drained. Some nights the dorms were too noisy to focus, so I wandered to the campus library, sometimes staying until midnight. It was a Wednesday. I had 3 classes and an internship that day with 2 exams the next morning. By 9 p.m. I was exhausted and went straight to the library. It was still fairly busy, but by 10 the atmosphere became eerily quiet. I chose a table tucked between 2 tall bookshelves, far from any foot traffic. As I was deep in study, a man walked into the area past several empty tables and sat directly across from me. I looked up. He smiled. I politely nodded and buried myself in my laptop, trying to ignore the odd encounter. A few minutes later, he spoke. "Sorry, are you taking microeconomics?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not." But he didn't stop. He started talking about his Professor Davis and how he liked to give pop quizzes. I nodded, trying to be polite, but my concentration was gone. I glanced up. He was still staring, smiling, not blinking. Then he asked my name. I lied, Chelsea. He tilted his head. "Chelsea, you have such blue eyes." A wave of unease crept over me. I asked him the full name of his professor. He hesitated, then said Davis, but didn't know the first name. I looked it up on ratemyprofessor.com. My school only had one Davis, a former math professor who hadn't taught in years. I stood up without another word and walked straight to the front desk. I could feel his eyes following me with every step. I told security I suspected he wasn't a student. They followed me back to the table. When asked for his student ID, he fumbled in his pockets and said he left it in his dorm. "Which dorm?" the guard asked. He hesitated, then replied, I don't remember the name." The guard told him to leave. Before walking out, he turned back, gave me one last look, and smiled. I tried to study for another hour, but I couldn't shake the feeling. At midnight, I packed up and left. The front gate was quiet. He was gone. I walked quickly toward the dorms, crossing the nearly abandoned campus. Footsteps. Soft. Behind me. I turned. No one. I started running. And then I heard them again. I looked back. It was him. He was sprinting toward me. I screamed, but the sound vanished as he tackled me, hand clamped over my mouth. He whispered, "If you scream again, I'll kill you." I thrashed, desperate. He began dragging me toward the bushes by the woods. I thought I was going to die. But someone shouted. 2 students ran over yelling, "Let her go." He fled into the darkness. They helped me up and called campus security and the police. The library had cameras. They got a clear shot of his face. The photo was circulated across campus. Just hours later, someone spotted him drinking at a bar nearby. He was arrested. I survived, but the scar he left will never fade. Story 2. The Man Behind the Bookshelf. When I was little, I lived in a small town where everything felt safe to the point of being boring. I was about 5 or 6 the day it happened. My mom took my baby brother and me to the public library after a trip to the mall. I still had half a melted ice cream cone in my hand. The library wasn't big, but it had a cozy children's section with old computers and low shelves, perfect for a curious kid like me. I played on a computer for a while, then wandered through the shelves looking for my favorite I Spy books. As I passed a shelf along the wall, I heard a quiet psst behind me. I turned around. No one. Then half of a man's face peeked out from behind the shelf. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Peekaboo." I laughed. At that age, I didn't feel scared at all. He ducked behind the shelf again, then popped out once more with the same silly tone. I laughed again. Then he asked, "What book are you looking for?" I told him I spy. He smiled. "Come on. I know where they are." He took my hand and led me past the shelves. We stopped at a row with at least 5 I Spy books. I grabbed the treasure hunt one, my favorite. He said, "There's a playroom downstairs with more toys. It's way more fun." I blinked. I didn't even know the library had a basement. I nodded. We went downstairs. It was a room used for club meetings and events. There was a small playroom in the corner filled with toys, Legos, and plastic chairs. He shut the door. Not locked, but no one knew we were there. We sat at the Lego table. At first he played along, but then he started asking questions. "Did you come here alone? Where's your mom?" I said. "She's upstairs, with my baby brother." A few minutes later, he stood up, walked to the light switch and turned off the lights. Total darkness. His voice changed. "Now we play hide and seek. In the dark." I froze. He moved closer. His whisper got louder. I heard heavy breathing, shuffling footsteps. I tried to scream, but my throat locked up. Then, "Liam, please come to the front desk. Your mother is looking for you." The library's intercom. A woman's voice like a beacon in the night. He went silent. I bolted out the door, sprinted through the dark hallway, up the stairs, not daring to look back in case a hand reached for me. I ran to the front desk. My mom was there with 3 librarians, her eyes red. She hugged me so tightly, like she feared I'd vanish. I told them everything. Police arrived. We searched the basement. He was gone. No one knew who he was or how he got in. The cameras didn't catch a clear view of his face. I never saw him again. And I never stepped foot in that library's basement again. Story 3. The Woman in White. In my early 20s, I worked night shifts at the local public library. It was a side gig after my day job, and most nights I was alone from 6 p.m. until close at 9. On quiet evenings, after everyone left, my tasks included locking doors, shutting down computers, shelving books, emptying trash, and making sure everything was in order before leaving. I was used to being alone. But that night, something was off. At 8:45, I made the usual announcement. "The library will close in 15 minutes. Please finish checking out and prepare to leave." Only 2 visitors remained. They gathered their things and left after the 9 p.m. bell. I locked the main doors. Outside was dark, silent. I thought to myself, just a quick reshelving session and I could start my weekend. I started with DVDs, easy enough. As I moved to the book returns, I heard something like a book falling. I stepped out from the staff area and found a book lying in the aisle. Strange, no one else was here. I picked it up, told myself it probably slipped. But 10 minutes later, while alphabetizing more returns, I heard it again, 2 books this time. Then, a faint sound. Breathing. I cautiously walked between the shelves. As I neared the children's section, the farthest, darkest corner, I heard growling. Not human, not animal, something distorted. A screech that sounded like someone trying to imitate a creature. I froze, then crept closer, and I saw her. A woman in a wrinkled white nightgown, hair wild and tangled, tossing books off shelves, eyes wide, mouth hissing like a feral animal. Barefoot, pale, arms covered in scratches. I didn't make a sound. I turned and ran to the back office, locked the door, pulled the blinds, picked up the landline. 911, what's your emergency? There's a woman in the library. I don't think she's okay. She's screaming and throwing books. Have you approached her? No. But I peeked through the blinds and screamed. She was standing right outside the office window, staring at me with eyes that had no whites, just black voids. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Just that awful hissing sound. I whispered to the dispatcher, staring at her, until she started banging on the glass. Thud, thud, thud. I stepped back. She tried the door. It held. Then suddenly she sat in the chair outside the office, motionless, staring at me. 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights reflected through the windows. Police and EMTs entered. She resisted. They handcuffed her as she screamed nonsense. I don't know who she was or how she got in. Maybe while I took out the trash. Maybe she'd been inside all evening. Since that night, whenever I stay after closing, I always feel like something's watching me from the shelves. No one ever figured out who she was or where she came from, or whether she was even entirely human. But one thing is certain. Since that night, the library has never felt truly quiet again. What about you? Could you work a night shift in a place like that all alone? If you've ever had a night you'll never forget, share it in the comments. And if you want more terrifying true stories like these, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. In the dark.